Good day. Our subject is Theory of Architecture and Principles of Planning. Research of architecture contributes to design theory. Okay? It helps or aids the research or the design theory. Nature of design theory, it states facts. So when you say facts, it has it proves to be true or a thing that is known. So that is facts. It also aids design. It helps or support in the achievement of architectural design. Scope of architecture theory includes all that is presented in the Handbook of Architects. So all of these references, the theory of architecture, building technology, architectural design books are included to, and it includes legislation. Ito yung mga uh, legislation of the government and other laws that pertains to uh, buildings and architecture, of course. The norms and standards, rules and methods. It also includes miscellaneous and unscientific elements. So when you say unscientific, it is not in accordance with scientific principles or methodology. So kasalungat siya nung scientific method. Or we can say that unscientific is a self-contradictory. So this one is parang yourself should be the judge of the things na gusto mo. No? Just like, say papipiliin ka kung alin ang maganda, yung nasa left or right, or yung A or B. So, dito pumapasok yung self-contradictory that i-judge mo siya based on your based on yourself. Ano? Kung paano mo siya tinignan. No? Yung iba nagsasabi na, ito mas maganda, yung B. Yung isa naman, ito yung A. So, it depends upon yourself kung alin yung pipiliin mo. So, that is unscientific or self-contradictory. Why design theory? Sabi nga ng kasabihan ni architect Jean Mignot, skill without knowledge is nothing. No? May skill ka, but wala naman siyang basihan. Without knowledge is nothing. No? Para bang you cannot give what you do not have. No? It is just aiming a rifle nowhere. Hindi mo siya inasinta, kaya hindi mo tinamaan yung kailangan mong tamaan. So, skill without knowledge is nothing. So, architecture, without this references, without these facts or theory of well-known architects and other previous readings is nothing. And also, design theory is to aid the work of the architect and improve its product. To aid means to help or assist in the achievement of architectural design para mas lalong ma-improve yung produkto. Ano ba itong produkto? Of course, the man-made structure, which is the buildings, the houses, etc. Proven theory helps designers do work better and more efficiently. So when you say proven theory, it is a scientific theory, no? An explanation for something based on a testable body of evidence that has been repeatedly confirmed through observation and experiments. So repeatedly confirmed through observation experiments. Meaning to say, perfect na ito. Ano? Kasi proven na siya na talagang uh, uh, maganda or tama itong teorya na ito. So, tested and confirmed hypothesis. Hindi ito falsified, hindi ito dinaya, kundi talagang uh, authentic ito. Next, understanding design theory. Theory does not necessarily precede design. No? Ibig sabihin, ang theory, hindi niya inuunahan yung design. No? Or go in front, or ahead of, or hindi niya linalagpasan yung design. Theory is only to support or aid of the architectural design. So ano lang siya? It assists in the achievement of something. No? Dito mo kinukuha yung basihan mo. But hindi ito ibig sabihin na kung ano yung teorya, yun din ang gagawin mo. Ano? Kumbaga, may kukunin ka lang na i-adapt doon sa design, but ang masusunod talaga ay yung iyong design nyo. No? But yung design mo has this basis. No? Kinuha mo doon sa napili mo na theory. Next, paradigm. Every new or established theory applied or style. So when you say paradigm, that is the model of your design or the pattern. No? Parang tinatawag na style guiding principle or the prototype of your design. No? That is the paradigm. Architectural philosophies. The architect's resolved and or manifesto. Ano ba ito? Resolved meaning the rule of the architect or implies an expressed or clear decision of an architect. Or manifesto is a public declaration of policy and aims that the architect has this philosophy. An example of that is the 10 books of architecture, which is gawa ito ni Marcus Vitruvius Polio. No? And meron siyang kasabihan na or dictums, famous dictums of Vitruvius, which is the Firmitas, Utilitas, and Venustas. No? Meaning to say, the strength, the functionality, and beauty of the building or the structure. The 10 books of architecture by Vitruvius, nakapalaman dito yung kasabihan, ano, or saying, or the philosophy, the architect should be equipped with knowledge of many branches of study and varied kinds of learning. No? So, dapat yung arkitekto daw maging handa, equipped with knowledge of many branches of study and varied kinds of learning. So, that's why yung Bachelor of Science in Architecture, napakalawak ng kanyang scope. Ano? Napakalawak. Kung titignan mo yung prospectus ng BS Architecture, ng Bachelor of Science, meaning to say, napakarami. Ano? Andyan na yung, you have this design, architectural design, the theory of architecture, the building technology, what else? Electrical electrical subjects that uh, gives the student basis or the basic about electrical, mechanical, what else, uh, the plumbing, and so on and so forth. So, equip you should be equipped with knowledge of many branches, no? Pag nakatapos kayo ng architecture. So, for it is by his judgment that all work done by the other arts is put to test, no? Proportion. An architect ought to be an educated man so as to leave a more lasting remembrance in his treatise, no? A more lasting remembrance means the permanent or legacy that can of use to the future generation. So kahit na wala na tayo sa mundong ibabaw, uh, yung iyong gawa or yung iyong design na man-made structure or the buildings will become permanent or magiging ano siya, legacy na pwedeng gamitin ng mga susunod na generation. Secondly, he must have knowledge of drawing so that he can readily make sketches to show the appearance of the work which he proposes. So, dapat yung arkitekto hindi masyado o hindi nagre-rely lang sa computer na meron ng mga naka-save na design or details dun sa library, kundi tapos i-copy paste. But of course, he must have a knowledge of drawing. So that's why we have this, we should have skill in drawing. Kung hindi pa na nagiging hindi pa na-develop yung skill mo, meron tayong mga subjects on how you will develop your skill in drawing or sketching, like the graphics, the graphics, architectural graphics, the visual technology subject, building technology subject, architectural design subject. So, in that way, you will develop or you will gain knowledge on drawings and sketches. Kasi yung iba, mahina, lalo na yung hindi naman talaga gusto yung course na architecture, napilitan lang. So, pumasok lang doon. Tapos, wala man siyang skill. So, nagre-rely lang siya sa computer or sa AutoCAD. So, an architect must have knowledge of drawing so that he can readily make sketches to show the appearance of the work which he proposes. So, this one is an example of building done by Bonaventure, the Venturi House. So, yung kanyang architectural movement. So, what architectural movement does this structure fall under? So, minimalist, Art Deco, modernist, postmodernist. So, this type of structure is a postmodernist building. This one is a cardboard cathedral in New Zealand. Sino ang arkitekto? Who is the architect? Shigeru Ban. Shigeru Ban. Yun ang nag-design nito. Yan, si Shigeru Ban. The main stadium for the World Games 2009 in Taiwan. So, who is the architect? Letter D. Toyo Ito. Ganda ng pangalan, Toyo ito. Ito si Toyo ito. Ideal Theater in Manila. Who is the architect? Pablo Antonio, National Artist for Architecture. So, ito yung mga example ng kanilang mga structure na tinayo nila nung previous years. So, naging ano siya, naging legacy na hanggang ngayon, we can use these buildings or the documents we can use as basis to our future architectural design. So there is no doubt whatever about the influence of architecture and structure upon human character and action. We make our buildings and afterwards they make us. They regulate the course of our lives. That is the saying of Winston Churchill, 1924. We make our buildings and afterwards they make us. No? The way people live their lives is directly linked to the designed environment. Ano ibig sabihin nito? The way people live their lives is directly linked. Ibig sabihin, has a relationship between the design of the built environment. No? Meron silang link both individually and socially. No? So, pag nakatira ka dito sa isang lugar na ito, katulad nito, this one is, we can say that this one is a slum area or squatters area. No? Na dikit-dikit, hindi mo alam kung ano yung dikit-dikit, tagpi-tagpi, no? And very crowded. So, you can assess that kind of people live in this type of surroundings, medyo magulo, no? Kaya nga, if you happens to go to Manila and makita mo itong klaseng environment, medyo sasabihin mo magulo, iba-ibang klaseng tao ang nakatira dyan, no? Whether the explicit intention to influence behavior drives the design architectural determinism or whether the behavior consequence of design decisions are only revealed and considered as part of the post-occupancy evaluation or by social scientists or psychologists studying the impact of a development. There are links between the design of the built environment and our behavior, both individually and socially. Okay? So, moments in architecture, architectural philosophies, historic styles of architecture. The particular method and characteristic manner of design which prevails at a certain place and time. So, example of that. So, this one is historic styles of architecture nito. So, yung mga unang panahon na architectural character and styles, no? The particular method, the characteristic manner of design, which prevails at a certain place and time. So, tignan natin, isa-isay natin yan. Prehistoric, prehistoric, monumental but primitive use of stones. So this one is the structure nung prehistoric time. Monumental. So gumagamit sila ng mga malalaking or bulky stones, no? Yan, dawn of architecture. So ito yung kanyang ibig sabihin ng structure nito. Next, the ancient Egypt, monumental and enormous, no? Meaning to say, talagang gigantic yung kanyang uh, structure, feats of engineering. So ito yung tinatawag na early masters of engineering. So kung titignan mo, paano ba naitayo yan na very massive and napakalaki ng structures? Wala naman silang ginamit na mga heavy equipments to lift that particular materials na ang lalaking tipak ng bato, no? But nagawa nila yan, no? So, but of course, during those times, talagang ang dami nilang mga slaves, mga laborers na nagtulong-tulong para maitayo itong massive structures. So, tinatawag ito na early masters of engineering, na even though they have no equipment, na itayo pa rin nila yan. Next, classical. So, ginawa ito, Vitruvius Folio, with precise rules. So, yung proportion, yung symmetry, no? Balance, ito yung ginamit na karakter ni Marcus Vitruvius Folio. So, Beauty from Order. So, ito yung kanyang title. Next, Byzantine. So, you can observe the representation or the picture with graceful, classically inspired, you know? The materials, they use bricks as the primary materials. Then, style domed roofs, dome, bilog siya, dome. Elaborate mosaics, classical forms. Then, the title of this one is When Rome Builds an Eastern Empire. The next is Romanesque architecture. Transitional, medieval Europe, rounded arches. So, ito yung kanyang mga architectural characters. So, I hope alam nyo ang structure nito. The famous Leaning Tower of Pisa. The medieval architecture plus Roman plus Byzantine. Next, the Gothic. So, ito yung mga style or structure ng Gothic architecture. Pointed arches, pointed. Hindi siya bilog, kundi or rounded, kundi pointed. And then rib vault, then flying buttresses. Okay? So, flying buttresses is a support sa structure para hindi siya matumbang, no? Hindi siya magbumuho. You can verify that or research about the detail of this rib vault flying buttresses. Okay? Architecture reaches new heights. Then the Renaissance period. So during that period, inobserve din nila yung symmetry, symmetrical balance, the proportion, then geometry, different types of geometry. The classical ideas reborn. New exploration of forms, Baroque architecture. The light and shadow, the dramatic intensity. So we call this architecture of exuberance. Next, Rococo architecture. This one from the late Baroque architecture in the age of Mozart. this type of structure. Next is the awareness of style. First, the fashion which each generation can promptly recognize as its own. What ties together the aesthetic achievements of the creative individuals of one age, the expression of a prevailing dominant or authentically contemporary, the view of the world by those as artists who have most successfully intuited the quality of human experience peculiar to their day, and who are able to praise this experience in forms deeply congenial to the thought of matter expressed. Next, revivalism. When you say revivalism, neoclassicism, the new approach to classical architecture. Neo-Gothic, this is the modern Gothic. This one is the manifesto of William Morris, The Lesser Arts of Life. Art Nouveau, no? Art Nouveau. When you say Art Nouveau, it is a style of decorative art. Kaya kung titignan mo yung style, architectural character niya is more on decorative figures, ano? Decorative art, architecture, and design prominent in Western Europe and the US, and characterized by intricate linear design, by flowing curves based on natural forms. The Art Deco during the 20th century, this one is the jazzy architecture. Art Deco is the predominant decorative art style of the 1920s to 1930s, characterized by precise and boldly delineated geometric shapes and strong colors, and used most notably in household objects and in architecture. No? So, combination of uh, the comparison of Art Nouveau and Art Deco. No? So, basahin nyo lang yan. Naturalistic but stylized forms. Then, so Art Nouveau is flowery. Then, the Art Deco is sleek. Tinatawag siyang sleek. Ano ba yung sleek? Streamlined and geometric utilized modern materials like chrome, stainless steel, and inlaid wood. No? Kaya tinatawag siya na sleek machined surfaces. Straight and smooth and in design or shapes, stylish and attractive. So medyo makikintab during that Art Deco. No? Then, naturalistic but stylized forms often combined with more geometric shapes, particularly arcs, parabolas, and semicircles. Graphic or textural features bold shapes like sunburst, zigzags, and broad curves. So that is the difference between the Art Nouveau and the Art Deco. Next is the modernism, associated with the following terms, the functional, industrial, innovative or novel, technology, revolutionary, and opposing. So that is the terms that you can associate modernism. No? So when you say functional, of course, it is designed to be practical and useful. So yung space is more practical and useful. Then Industrial means it is stronger of its kind. So very massive, and andun yung kanyang structurally fit dun sa kanyang laki. No? So that is, meron siyang Fermitas, sabi ni Vitruvius. Then, innovative. So, futuristic yung design, or made of different forms. Then, technology, of course. Modernism is equipped with technology. Then, revolutionary, fossil. Common notions of the modernism: the soulless container. Common notion is the soulless container. When you say soulless container, anong notion? Ito yung mga kasabihan na yung modernism daw ganito, no? Soulless container. Soulless container is no greatness or warmth of mind or no feelings. So para ba siyang wala, ano lang siya? Parang you live in a box. Kaya yun ang sinabing modernism. Wala siyang warmth or greatness. Then, of course, arrogant or absence of relationship with the environment. So sabi nila, ito yung belief about modernism, that absence of relationship with the environment, that the building exists in their own. Wala siyang relationship with nature, no? So that is not good. That's why yung mga modern structures ngayon, dahil nga nagkaroon na ng pagbabago, in-incorporate na nila yung nature to their design. So parang designing with nature, na we should not neglect the environment dun sa ating design. Dapat ihalo natin, i-blend natin yung design. But of course, yan yung ang common notions about modernism, that it is an absence of relationship with the environment. No? Next belief about modernism is arrogant. Arrogant. So when you say arrogant, revealing an exaggerated design. So, ayan yung paniniwala sa modernism, that modernism is an arrogant type of design. Arrogant. Then, unarticulated, or we can call that coherent, means logically or aesthetically ordered or integrated. Then, another common notions about modernism is monstrous. Monstrous, massive, high-rise, large, complex, gigantic, enormous, huge. So that is common notions about modernism. So, kasi nakikita nila yung mga skyscrapers na talagang very huge or malalaki talaga sila. Then, speculative. Speculative means expressing theoretical rather than demonstrable, based of thoughts, not evidence. Example of this one is a theory based on emotions. No? A theory based on emotions, that is speculative. Then mass-produced, from the word mass-produced. So we can link this to materials used by modernism or modern architecture, wherein it is mass-produced, means manufactured in large quantities. by an automated mechanical process. No? The mga prefabricated materials like the glass panels, the steel framings, what else? Precast concrete, precast columns, beams, and so on and so forth. So that is modernism, mass-produced. Modernism is marked by the following: renunciation of the old world. When you say renunciation, para bang the formal rejection of the old architectural character, no? Or yung dating mundo, inaalis na yan sa modernism, no? Renunciation, the formal rejection of the old world. Okay? Next, addressed mass housing. Of course, it addresses maramihan, mass housing. Madali mo siyang i-multiply yung mga bahay because of the mass production of materials. No? Mas madali. Hindi katulad nung unang panahon o old world that yung materials handmade. Gagawa ka ng mga natural stones, talagang sisinsilin mo pa siya mano-mano. Hindi katulad ngayon, pag may mga materials made of stone, machine na yung gumagawa, machine cut na siya, machine na yung kanyang papakinis, and so on and so forth. So, modernism is marked by or addressed mass housing. Then, explored potentials of materials and new forms. Okay, so modernism has this technological advancement that materials that is high quality and bagong form. So that is modernism. Then technological determinism and structural rationalism. Technological determinism from the word technological, that is innovation, and structural rationalism, wherein you can span longer, say for example, you can span longer, even your span is 20 meters, not just like noong unang panahon that very minimal yung span, and very massive yung wall. Ngayon, kahit na ang kapal ng wall is 10 cm, okay lang kasi siya, load-bearing structure. So that is structural rationalism. Then, aesthetic self-expression, okay, the beauty. Then, belief in the power of form to transform the world. Then, sleek machine surfaces, meaning to say, straight and smooth in design or shape, and that is stylish and attractive. Mass production and cost reduction. Okay, so mass production, because yun nga, gawa na ng manufactured in large quantities na siya by an automated mechanical process, mas mabilis, mas madali, mas pulido, mas quality, and of course, cost reduction, mas mura, because hindi mo na kailangan gumamit ng hard labor na napakarami, kundi mas mabilis na ito ang gumagawa. Okay, ang gumagawa niya is makina and machine. Kaya mas mabilis siya, mas marami siyang nagagawa. So that's why the cost of labor is reduced, no? Kaya nagkaroon siya ng cost reduction, mas mura. Skyscraper and capitalism. Skyscraper means high-rise buildings, mga matataas na structure or buildings, and capitalism. Then, grand urban project. Grand urban project means, uh, grand means large and impressive uh, town or city, no? Project. So, kung makikita mong sa urban areas, you can see all these grand urban projects na nagsusulputan doon. No? Even here in Sorsogon, we have this uh, projects na hindi pa masyadong grande o complex ba. Kahit pa paano meron tayong mga urban projects na ginagawa through urbanization. No? Kahit city na yung Sorsogon City, kukunti pa rin yung kanyang structure ng high-rise buildings. Kasi hindi pa man kailangan dito magkaroon ng matataas na building kasi napakalaki pa ng ating area para pagtayuan. Okay? Not just like in Metro Manila that yung presyo ng lupa doon napakamahal. Kaya they design their structures high-rise. No? So this one is an example of expressionism and neo-expressionism of modernism, no? Beauty and function. That is one example. Then structuralism, modernism. So this one is the this one is an example of an office, and yung kanyang flooring is made of a combination of steel, concrete, and glass. No, that is structuralism. So beauty and function. Then formalism, modernism. So beauty and function. So an example of a skyscraper. No? Yan. Ito yung kanyang konsepto, theory. Ito yung actual representation of this concept. The Bauhaus, example of modernism, beauty and function. Then beauty and function. This one is the international style, modernism. High-tech, modernism. Brutalism. Okay, when you say brutalism, style of architecture of art characterized by a deliberately plainness, crudity, or violence of imagery. The term was first applied to functionalist buildings of the 1950s and 60s that made such much use of steel and concrete in starkly massive blocks. Yeah. Deconstructivism. Yan, deconstructivism, modernism pa rin yan. Beauty and function. This one is an architectural movement or style influenced by deconstruction that encourages radical freedom or form and the open manifestation of complexity in a building, rather than strict attention to functional concerns and conventional designs elements, such as right angles, grid, etc. This one, minimalism. When you say minimalism, it's about avoiding unnecessary. So, meaning to say, a simple design. Huh? Simple design. It's about avoiding unnecessary. It's about simplicity, utility, and elegance. It's all about less is more in terms of embracing the most fewer things. So, minimalism. Simple structure. Then, organic. When you say organic, that is a philosophy of organic architecture. That is the philosophy of architecture which promotes harmony between human habitation and the natural world. Ano ba yun? Nature. So, That's why, as you can observe in this structure, yung kanyang konsepto is nagbe-blend siya sa nature, which is the ocean, no? Ano siya? Para siyang sailboat na mayroong mga sail o katig. Oh, sorry, ano tawag sa yung para umandar yung barko, no? Ito, mga trapal, ano? So, it blends on the human habitation saka sa natural world, no? So, napakarami pang structure na matatawag natin organic architecture. So, kung i-research niyo siya, no? Parang yung flowing water, no? Flowing water na andun sa ilalim yung bahay, ano? Yung structure na naka-blend siya dun sa forest, and so on and so forth, no? So that is an example of organic architecture. Modernism na siya. Then this one, Jacques Derrida, the founding father of deconstruction. Something has been constructed, a philosophical system, a tradition, a culture, and along comes a destructor. Destroys it stone by stone and analyzes structure and dissolves it. Okay? So, kung titignan mo, ang gulo ng kanyang framings, ano? Kaya tinawag siya ng deconstruction. Le Corbusier, saying ni Le Corbusier, a famous architect, the frame of a building or buildings is like the laws that govern society. Without these laws, there is anarchy. And without the frame, there is visual anarchy. No? So, yung frame ng building, of course, that will be the shape of the building itself, the form. So, kung ano yung frame, that will be the form. No? So, ganun din sa laws that govern society. Na kung ano yung pamamalakad ng gobyerno, ganun din yung magiging forma o plataforma ng society or ng community. This one is the postmodern movement. Postmodern. By Robert Venturi. Contradiction in architecture. Complexity and contradiction in architecture. Meaning to say, very complex yung design and contradicting sa architecture. So kung titignan mo, parang ano siya, parang hindi siya kinuha doon sa mga theory or laws sa architecture, no? Parang sarili yung kanyang or self-expression. This one is postmodernism. It's an example of postmodernism is the reshaping the past. So tinawag siyang reshaping the past is just like a pyramid na tinayo mo sa modern world, ano? Kaya tinawag siya na reshaping the past. This one is architecture came with cartoon like trivialization and packaging. So, yeah. Architecture philosophies, sabi ni Mies van der Rohe, less is more, no? Less is more. Simple square pavilion. So, this one is minimalist, no? Less is more. A simple structure defined by transparent walls and supported by an external structural frame. Transparent wall which is glass and supported by this external. So this one is the tawag ni si Robert Venturi. Less is more. Less is more. Sabi nga ni Van der Rohe, less is more, ano? But sabi ni Robert Venturi, less is bore. Nakaka-bore. Boring, no? So Venturi, Venturi, ito yung kanyang design. wherein this building recognizes complexities and contradiction. Complexities and contradiction to the theory of architecture. It is both complex and simple. Complex but simple. Ano? Kaya contradictions. Open and closed. Ano? Open, saka closed. Open and closed. Then, big and little. Kaya, contradictory. Some of its elements are good on one level and bad on another. Its order accommodates the generic elements and of the house in general, and the circumstantial elements of the house in particular. Okay, so that ends my lecture for today. So please stand by for the next lecture. Goodbye.